Welcome to the Linette Eady Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. And today we have a real good show. You got a preview of who is going to be on the show, and we're talking about hip-hop rap and artists and someone that put together some things. See, my ear wasn't ready for rapping. I was like, what is rapping all about? You know, and I was like, oh, I can't understand it. But you know what? There's a lot of people out there that understand it. I read this book. Well, I started reading this book called Do You by Russell Simmons. And if you don't know who Russell Simmons is, too bad. But I think Russell Simmons got a clue about hip-hop and what's going on in hip-hop and what's real about hip-hop. And today we're going to talk about hip-hop. We're going to talk about what's going on today in the marketplace and how it's going to affect you. I know if you're young, you think, oh, it's not going to affect me. Big deal. I don't even need to vote. Well, first of all, you need to vote. You need to practice. Let's call this practice if nothing else. It's so important that you get out and register to vote today. Because by the time you see this, time is going to be running out. October the 6th is the deadline, so you need to get registered to vote. If you have not voted in the last primary in the last 4 years, you need to re-register to vote. September the 30th, you can start voting. Didn't know that, did you? If you're a felon, you can vote. See, rumors are starting up out here, and it's a lot of people out here think that they cannot vote. You can vote, even if you have a loved one that's in the that's down in the, what you call it, Justice Center. You could take them an absentee ballot so they can vote. Yes, we're talking about hip-hop artists today. We're talking about rapping today. You're going to hear a lot of things. But before we get started, it was just important for me to talk to you about how important it is to vote. And what we're going to do is talk to some of my guests about the importance of voting before we even get into them being an entrepreneur. First of all, how important is it to vote in your mind?
I think voting is an essential part of being a productive citizen in society. Especially as African Americans, our voice is limited here in America. So I think if we actually have the ability to vote, we should make it count. Everybody should. So like you said, if you have, even with felonies, anything, you know what I mean, you definitely want to make it count. Now, especially with the economy changing and a lot of legislation being put in place, we want to make sure that our generation now and future generations have a say-so. So I think voting is definitely important. You know, even though it's kind of taboo in the black community, a lot of people say, well, I don't vote anyway. Well, you know what I mean? That's nonsense. Times have changed. You know, with the internet, everything, information has changed. I think we should, you know, come along with the times and make our voices be heard.
Okay, now see, that wasn't coming from me. I have someone else's opinion.
Absolutely. I feel that, to elaborate on what my brother Dris said, I feel that voting is very important. We as African Americans, we talk about all the change that we want and all the change that we want to see. So by voting, we at least can contribute to that change that we're looking for.
Definitely.
So pretty much, period. That's how I feel about it. If we speaking about change and we want to have change and we want to see it, then we got to do our part and contribute to that. And voting is a way to do that.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, if you don't vote, you just might as well lay down and die, because these next few years are going to make a big difference in your life. Okay, you don't want to vote. Do you want to go to war? Because you're saying, oh, well, they're not going to come get me because I'm the only son in the family. Oh, they're changing all the rules and regulations. And the little girls are saying, oh, well, I don't need to vote because they're not going to come get me. The rules and regulations are changing. Believe me, just because you're a woman or a young lady, they are going to change the rules and regulations to this war. It's not going to be a war like ever before. They're going to start drafting. So, if for no other reason, you need to get out and vote, because if the wrong person gets in, we will go to another war, and we will be fighting again. Do you think I'm just talking off the top of my head?
No, not at all. I mean, a lot of things have changed, especially, you know, the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and just America's international policies as far as, you know, them dealing with other nations it's at a tipping point. And I think that, you know, it's just going to be a lot of change on both ends. You're going to see America changing. Like I said, the economy's not doing too good. We're going into a recession. So our financial state is a little bit shaky. Well, it's real shaky. Other nations are gaining more power, and they're focusing on developing them. You got a billion plus Chinese, and we get all their products here, and you know, it's just a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes, but not really too much behind the scenes. They're putting it out there. It's just that a lot of people aren't educated, or they're choosing to ignore them, or they're just ignorant to the facts. So I think, you know, those who are awake and have their third eye open, so to speak, each one teach one.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
You know what? Wait a minute. How old are you?
23. I'll be 24 in November.
Wait a minute. We talking about someone, you sound more educated than those people on Wall Street. Actually, you making me feel like, you know, so you're talking about a third eye opening, which, you know, we need to get that open on a spiritual plane.
Definitely.
Because believe me, what you do in the past is coming back in the future, and the future is now. So therefore, you need to understand some basics. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what you want to be, at least get some business under your belt. Get that accounting under your belt. Because if you make $1 million and you give it to an accountant, and then you end up with $30,000, and you think you're doing big things, and the accountant is doing bigger things.
Yep.
Wouldn't you agree?
I would most definitely agree. It's all about entrepreneurship, getting your own thing established, creating your own business. I definitely feel like that's important. There's a lot of resources out there, books, the internet, that you can draw from to get information on how to start your own business, on where to begin. It's a lot of information out there. You got to research it and go find it.
Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the reason we came today. We did a whole lot of talking, but it was important. I hope you didn't turn it off, because, see, you need to go to www.waycross.tv and have your friends listen to this show, because if you know me and you've been listening to me,